Spirit, consciousness, absolutely real. Soul, spirit, consciousness, absolutely real.
Soul, spirit, consciousness, absolutely real.
And of course, when I came back, I was still so absolutely awed and shocked by the power of that beautiful being, that deity at the core of all, in that core realm, that for me, the word God was too puny a word. It was a little human word, and it had a little bit of baggage, and therefore I referred to that infinitely loving being as Om. That was the sound that I heard in that realm. To discuss it with other humans, I was referring to what some might call God, others might call Allah, others would call Brahman, Vishnu, Jehovah, Yahweh. I don't care what the words are. The words get in the way. They make it look like it's an intellectual discussion, some high school or college debate. It's not. That world is absolutely real. And that is something that is coming to this world in no uncertain terms as this world awakens even now, which I think is happening for a very big reason. Now, it turns out the reason that I was so shocked by all this, as I said, the neocortex. Modern neuroscience would tell you that the rich details of any kind of conscious awareness and experience depends on at least part of that neocortex, the outer surface of the brain, the human part of the brain, being intact. And that's why severe bacterial meningitis was such a perfect model for human death. And in fact, those who have read the book will realize I put together 9 hypotheses. There were actually others that I entertained with colleagues in trying to explain this experience as a brain-based mechanism. I was completely blown away by the power of that ultra-reality, as are so many others who have near-death experiences. And it's something that, of course, we cannot really put into words. People are tempted to think, well, yeah, that's a trick of the dying brain. It's the world on which this material universe is based. And it's a realm with which all of our souls are very familiar, because we've all been there and we all go back there. An important implication of all this, for some people, they often ask, well, are animals conscious? Well, actually, animals can be extremely conscious. I would say even more so than humans sometimes, because the little voice in our head actually gets in the way of deeper consciousness. That's why I do so much work now with meditation, centering prayer, the work with sacred acoustics, as I've said, in developing sound files that help people get into deep transcendental conscious states, which I am convinced are freeing us up into non-local consciousness. It's not like this is a simple issue, the mind-body debate, trying to look at what is mental versus what is physical phenomena, the mind and the brain. That discussion's been going on for more than 2,600 years. You'd think we'd be getting close to some kind of an answer. Well, I think we are getting closer to an understanding, but I also realize from my journey that human brain and mind will never understand everything. And in fact, the hard problem of consciousness, which basically says that no neuroscientist on earth can give you the first sentence to explain how the physical brain might give rise to consciousness, is arguably the most vexing conundrum known to all of human thought. I think it is important to point out we are conscious in spite of our brain. The brain is there more as a reducing valve or filter. When our awareness is freed up from the physical brain and body, say at the time of bodily death, it actually comes to a much higher level of awareness, reuniting with the souls of departed loved ones and with the divine, going through that life review. It's a tremendous shift in my understanding of brain, mind, consciousness, and the very nature of all of existence. Soul, spirit, consciousness, absolutely real.
It's a journey that, by our conventional neuroscientific thinking, is absolutely impossible. Could not have happened at all, and yet it did. And that is the part that's so shocking. Now, of course, it's like millions of other near-death experiences that have been reported for thousands of years, from all continents, all belief systems, and the universality of those stories is what is so striking. Now, it's important to point out that in neuroscience, in this world of advanced brain studies, imaging, and all of our current understanding of the brain, we've come to realize the brain does not create consciousness at all.
And you say that emphatically.
Very emphatically. In fact, no neuroscientist on earth, no philosopher of mind can follow through with their statement of course the brain creates consciousness, with, oh really? Tell me a bit more. They are completely moot, because no one has the remotest clue how to connect the workings of the physical brain with the robust experience of consciousness that we all have. And as time has progressed, the more we've studied the brain, the more we've come to realize consciousness is not created by the brain. Now, obviously, there's a deep relationship between brain and consciousness, but it's really one of the brain serving as a reducing valve or filters. And it's not just about humans. In fact, it's not even limited to just life on Earth. This applies to sentience throughout the cosmos. All of consciousness is evolving. We are all part of that great expansion. And the more we come to realize this oneness, it brings to mind I know growing up in a Methodist church in North Carolina, being taught, one should love your enemy, love your neighbor. Well, in fact, I came to see that part of the biggest problem in this world is we don't even love ourselves enough. How can we possibly love others and love our enemy without loving ourselves? And it's being the love that we are. That is what is so important. And so, yes, it will change this world as we come to realize this is all about love, that we are all interconnected. If I hurt others, I'm hurting myself in a very direct way. And I think the near-death experience community in many ways is leading this beautiful growth and understanding of the nature of reality, because people who come back from near-death experiences realize that this is all about love. It's the only thing that matters. And loving ourselves is best done by expressing that love, serving as a conduit for that love, for all of our fellow beings, and making all of our choices in this life out of love, compassion, forgiveness, acceptance, and mercy on all that exists. And the more we can come to live that life, the straighter our ascendance towards that oneness with the divine. Within a decade or so, I don't think anyone will still entertain the ignorant, false beliefs of scientific materialism that have held sway for such a long time. I hope anyone who has further questions, wants to reach out to me, can contact me through ebenalexander.com. Another thing to mention as we presented at this conference is you don't have to just read about this and watch videos to learn about it. The best way to get to the truth is to go within. Meditation, centering prayer, these are all forms, because once you realize the physical brain doesn't create consciousness, you start to realize why going within your consciousness is actually a way to get out into this universe. And one can come to know full well everything that I say about the eternity of soul, the interconnectedness, the power of love, through going within. And that's why I do the work with Karen Newell of Sacred Acoustics. So people who are interested in learning more, who want some tools to help them get into deep transcendental meditative states, should visit sacredacoustics.com. And it turns out that this is a technique I've used daily for the last 5 years, listening to these differential sound frequency brain entrainment tones of Sacred Acoustics. So if you listen through headphones, they can have a very profound ability to allow you to get in touch with that universal infinite mind. So I would encourage people who are interested in that kind of thing to visit sacredacoustics.com, download their free audio file, listen with headphones, look at the information on that website, and you can start to learn a lot more. But by going within, that's the way that we can all come to know these truths. Come to great guidance, tremendous power in healing self and others. And I would say that all health, physical, mental, emotional, begins with spiritual health. And the way we can get the spiritual health is by going within, seeking that guidance, that connection with all, becoming one with the universe. This is something we can all accomplish when we put in that effort. I try to meditate an hour or two a day, which is what I would recommend for anyone who can. But any meditation can be very helpful.
Another beautiful quote that puts it in perspective is from Nikola Tesla.
that brilliant physicist who I think is very much underappreciated by many historians of science. And he said that when science first begins to investigate non-physical phenomena, that would be the phenomena of consciousness, soul, spirit, that in the first decade, science will uncover more than all the previous centuries of its existence. And I think Tesla was exactly right on the beam. And we are just beginning to enter that decade even now. There's nothing more complicated one needs to learn on this journey than that we are here to manifest unconditional love. First and foremost, to love ourselves. In fact, one of the biggest problems in this world, and in fact, I would say the source of the vast majority of problems, is we don't even love ourselves enough. We have forgotten the infinite divine soul beings that we are. And by remembering that, by living that, by meditating into that, coming to know it every day, and manifesting it through every choice that I make in this lifetime, by making choices out of love and compassion, forgiveness, acceptance, and mercy for all fellow beings, starting with myself and with all of those close friends and family, sharing that love. That's what this is really all about. And we're here to learn and teach those lessons. That's why you often hear about a life review. You know, that old saying, your life flashes before your eyes. Well, that's not just some new media-inspired hype out of the New Age movement concerning NDEs. If you go back and read Plato's account of the near-death experience of the Armenian soldier 2,400 years ago, you will find that he had a full-blown life review and realized full well that the measure in that realm of a soul is how much love they've handed out in this world. You know, this is not just New Age thinking by any stretch. This is the way the universe works, always has, always will. And that's why that life review is an important concept to get. Because we all go through that life review. It's in fact the reason we don't need an eternal hell. Because in that life review, if we've handed out pain and suffering to others, in the life review, any unresolved issues in our life about the good and the bad need to go through the teaching to prepare for the next incarnation. And that teaching involves our having to relive any specific events of our life where we may have hurt or especially helped other beings. We have to relive those events and feel the impact on the other being. Well, when I came back from my coma, I saw very clearly that this was not a battle between good and evil. What became very apparent to me is that unconditional love has infinite power to heal at all levels. Whether we're talking about the individual human being, the individual animal, any being in this creation, the ethnic groups, national groups, all of humanity, all of life on Earth, all of sentience throughout the universe. I don't care what level you're talking about. Unconditional love heals and makes it apparent that those kind of situations where we perceive darkness and evil are just the absence of light and love. Each and every one of us can serve as a point of light to bring that love into this universe. And in such a way, that is how we can prove that unconditional love will overcome any apparent forces of darkness and evil. As much as people talk about defeating the enemy and military strikes and all of this, at the end of the day, the only way we're ever going to come out of this kind of conflict is by sharing these acts of kindness and compassion between human beings and showing that love that is our natural state. This is taking care of the least, the last, and the lost in this world. All of us are part of that process. We're all in this together. You know, when you start realizing the concept of the one mind, that we're all part of that one mind, you realize that when I hurt someone else, I am hurting myself in a very real fashion. And if I don't come to realize that in this lifetime, I will certainly come to realize it in the life review.